that it seemed to take her a little while to get used to the idea of becoming a mudrig. Even though she posts updates pretty much every day, it wasn't until about the time of the Arnold reception that she started referring to herself as Jen Placer Mudrig. And that was like 2 weeks after the wedding. And then it was like another couple weeks after that she dropped the placer and became Jen Mudrig. It was like this gradual coming to terms with some kind of fatal condition. It was like a sick person who avoids seeing doctors, thinking that by not getting that firm diagnosis, they'll have just a little bit more time left. But Jen, I have to tell you, your time is up. You're one of us now, and your husband Clint will forever be attached to you like a giant tumor, a rod in your back, or a plate in your skull. Jen, I am very happy to have you as part of our family. Megan and I have always enjoyed spending time with you, whether it was at the Big Bang in St. Louis, medieval times outside of Chicago, or Irish Heavens in Key West, where you refused to be offended by the incredibly offensive Wedding Betty. And if anyone wonders about Wedding Betty, ask Jen to demonstrate. She'll show you the act. But Jen, you have a great sense of humor. You're kind. Amelia loves you. You're beautiful. You're 6 inches taller than me. But what I like most about you is that you have always, unlike my own wife, you have always respected the traditions of my family. As many of you know, the David Mudrig clan is a mixed family, half Jewish and half Catholic. And as such, we adhere to very strict gender roles. The women in the family take care of children, prepare meals, clean up after meals, and tend to the sick. The men of the family watch Kansas State football, or they retire to the basement for video games and foosball while their meals are being prepared. We do help clean up after meals, but only if we're given step-by-step instructions and monitored very closely. We're not above babysitting our own children, and we are very grateful for the care that we get when we are sick and being cared for by the women folk. But, Jen, you can argue that these traditions have very little to do with religion and more to do with the fact that Clint and I grew up in a male-dominated household. But I want to pretend that it's otherwise because with the additions of my daughter Amelia and now you to the family, I have to admit that the gender balance has shifted. And I'm worried that my mom's getting ideas about turning things around. And I fear that the proud life that we have established in our family could be in jeopardy. Now, I'm hoping that my wife's uterus, she's due in November, so I'm hoping her uterus is growing a son to help restore the natural order of things. But if it is another daughter and the regime changes, Jen, I hope that I can trust you to exercise restraint in the matriarchy and never ever make my dad, Clint, or I go shopping on these family diet vacations. As for Clint, many of you in this room remember 6 years ago when I got married, he gave a fantastic toast. He talked about the games I created and forced him to play back in the day, games like Game Wars that involved constructing rudimentary forts, turning off the lights, and throwing balls, plastic bowling pins, and football helmets until someone, pretty much always Clint, would run up the stairs screaming or crying to mom about rope burn. He also talked about the movies we would make. And these movies pretty much always involved explosives. They often involved some kind of threat of physical injury to Clint. And sometimes they would place him in direct contradiction of Kansas State laws, such as the time he was asked to drive a minivan down a country road 4 years before he could legally do so. But as much fun as we, or at least I, had during those years, it was inevitable that at some point, Clint would long to become more than just my little brother. And I think the first sign I had of this was the summer before I left for college. I had a sense at that time that things would change between Clint and I, and that last summer that we had before I went to college could be the end of our shared childhood. So I wanted to make the most of it. And I wanted to drag out the days, and I wanted to spend as much time with Clint as I could. But lacking in a certain emotional maturity, I don't think I knew how to tell Clint how I felt. And so I demonstrated it the only way I knew how, which was by organizing an elaborate summer-long competition designed to establish once and for all the world's greatest athlete, at least among the two of us. The competition schedule was extensive, and basically each month we were to compete in 69 different matches of 28 different events. The events included the following: California Games, World Games, 2 different versions of Joe Montana's football, 2 different versions of Golden Axe, and another video game, Stack Up, which was played without the robot and not at all as the game's developers had intended. There was backgammon, chess, and checkers. There were actually 2 stopwatch games that included nothing more than pushing the start-stop button as fast as you could. There was garage tennis, there was home run derby, and there were a number of other pseudo-sports and video games. This whole schedule was plotted out in a dot matrix print of an Apple image writer, along with this extremely complicated scoring algorithm that would have made Juan Antonio Samaranch proud. But as good as this was, there was one problem. Clint just refused to go along with the competition. Somehow he thought that he would have more other things to do that summer. Somehow he thought that devoting hundreds of hours of his time to a competition we both knew was fixed in my favor might not be in his interest. So for 14 years, Clint had served valiantly in his role as a younger brother, but this was just too much to ask. We still had a great summer, and I still managed to dominate Clint in the home run derby and garage tennis and several video games that I had chosen to include in that competition. But even that would soon change. As Clint went away to college and high school and began to establish his identity, and he began excelling in activities that I had never dreamed of trying myself, such as debate and drama and talking to girls. He was also growing taller, and soon he would be posting me up in basketball. He was blocking my shots. He was whooping me in racquetball like I was a little brother. He became more outgoing. Some of you have seen this. He developed this incredible skill for killer karaoke ballads, power ballads, and he channeled his Irish heritage into becoming an amazing storyteller. And it was at my wedding 6 years ago when I realized, as I was watching him give his speech, that I realized just how much more Clint had become than my little brother. Now today, Clint and Jen, we are celebrating your wedding for the 3rd time. There was Key West, Arnold, and now Topeka. So Jen, I would just say, just put the wedding dress away and let's kind of move on with things. But you're 2 wonderful people, and I'm very happy to have you as my younger siblings. And hopefully someday you will agree to act in my movies and participate in competitions. So, Mazel tov.
All right. Is there anyone else that would like to say anything to the bride and groom? Prefer not. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the cake line is open. Head on over there, grab some cake if you haven't already. We'll be doing